Hi, I'm Josh Sutton, owner of Sutton Outdoor. We design and build custom outdoor spaces that enable people to enjoy life outdoors, and I am a hardscaper.
All right, Josh, let's get started by getting to know a little bit more about yourself and how you got started in hardscaping. Can you give our audience a little bit of a background on that?
Yeah, so I grew up in a farm in Iowa, Davenport, Iowa. My parents were separated when I was 7 years old, and I just remember growing up on the farm and playing in the dirt piles out back. And even at that time, I was about 5 or 6 years old. I was out, taking this big dirt pile and making these walkways and raking out the dirt, making it look amazing, pulling the weeds. And I just had a love for that type of work when I was really young. And then we moved into town when my parents separated, and I was living in an apartment. So I kind of got away from landscaping for a while. And then when I turned 16, I was able to work at a grocery store. So I worked at a big chain grocery store in the Midwest, and they had an opening in the garden center. So I applied for that because I remembered, man, I really love landscaping. So I was working in the nursery out there in their parking lot, and I did that for about a year. And one of the ladies I worked with knew a guy that owned a tree farm and nursery and a landscape company, and he was looking for some help. So I applied for that job and got hired on the spot. And instantly I fell back in love with the whole landscape industry, and was just like, wow, this is what I want to do for a living. Like even at 16 years old. And I worked for him for about 6 years. I worked in his like garden center, and then he had a show garden where I kind of took over the maintenance of it. And when he'd be on vacation, he had a bunch of little like garden walls to build and things. So I would I was like, well, you dig the trench, you put the rock in, you compact it, and then you take the level and make sure it's level front to back. And I did that, and he came home and was like, oh my gosh, who came and put these walls in? And I was like, well, I did. And he was like, wow, that's amazing. So he put me in as a crew leader the next year, and I started leading crews for him, and I had no clue at all how to do patios or anything. So eventually that led me into learning more. We went to back then it was Unilock in Davenport, before it was, such a profound company now, but I learned how to do pavers there. And then I went to Iowa State University and went there for 4 years. I graduated. I even helped kind of co-teach some of the installation classes through my construction management courses. I got a degree in landscape horticulture there. So I graduated in 2004, and was just super excited that I could actually get a degree in the industry I love. Because when I started, I had no clue what was available out there. I was going to do a construction management degree, but I've always loved, I wanted to be a farmer, and then I wanted to be a builder, and then I wanted to be an architect. So this industry has allowed me to kind of do all three of those things in one. And since I graduated, I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina, just to get new beginning, kind of get out of the box I was in Davenport, Iowa. It was kind of a small town, and I just was like, there's got to be something else out there. And I was always kind of a shy guy, so I thought, I'm going to get out of my box and push my limits and see what I can do. So I moved down to Charlotte, North Carolina in 2005. So right after I graduated, I jump in, and I live with a friend of mine who owns a law firm, and he was in a country club and had a lot of wealthy friends, and there was a lot of landscaping going on, and the weather was much better. So I decided to start, it was called Impact Landscapes. It was my first company, and I jumped right in head first, had no clue what I was doing business-wise, but I had a wealth of knowledge on install, so I sold a bunch of work and got going, and that company ran for 5 years, and then I met my wife, and we moved up here to Kansas City, where I've kind of started a new company and a new beginning. So I took all the things I've learned. I've screwed up along the way and made as many errors as anybody can imagine, but now we're here at Sutton Outdoor, where I run the company, and my brother is my main right-hand man. We're kind of like yin and yang, so that's kind of an interesting dynamic to our company, but we managed to work it out well together, and now we're here, just doing our thing and continuing to just pursue my passions and learn more about the industry and do what I can to help promote it to the younger crowd. I've been doing it for 22 years and going on 23 now. So I just really want to give back to the industry now and help people, make a good living on it and be profitable. So it's kind of a long story, but I've been around the block a time or two. So
absolutely. It's good to kind of set that context for the rest of this interview. And, that first business that you started, Impact, what was your main service that you were offering your clients? You had a lot of experience with the softscape end of things. Was this kind of what you specialized in when you first started that business, or were you offering the whole package, like the softscape, hardscape, construction sort of thing?
definitely, I went right into the hardscape mixed with some softscape. Our first job was a big I used to, I started with the garden wall. It was just kind of an easy product to use, and I do some really cool shapes and levels and layers with it, and people really liked it. So the first design I did was using that garden wall, but then I did a really nice landscape with it. And I was using my friend's Chevy Suburban, and he helped me purchase my first dump trailer because he really believed in what I was doing. But I came out of college broke. I paid my way through college, a lot of it working, doing patios and whatnot, but I still had some debt hanging over me. So he's like, Josh, I believe in what you're doing. I'll help you buy this dump trailer. So he paid $4,800 for that trailer and let me use his Suburban. And that's really what kind of got me going. So I just went right into mostly hardscape. That's where my passion was. And of course I would landscape around the patios, but just going right into the hardscape is just where I've always just naturally felt comfortable, and I always do plantings. Even today, we still do plantings, but it's kind of just to add a little character around our hardscapes. So I just went right to the hardscapes.
And then you mentioned you got your horticultural education, and I feel like, at least for me and the people that I've talked to in this industry, it's not something that you hear about it in high school, that you can go down this path. This isn't really an avenue that's talked about much in high school, and a lot of us just don't know about it. And what was it that caught your attention, that you could go to college for this, that you could get that education for this? And then what would you say, in addition to that question, what would you say the benefits were in getting that education for yourself?
Yeah, you know what? I graduated high school. I took vocational house building when I was a senior in high school. I took every industrial arts class there was available. I didn't take a single chemistry class or biology. I took weather, climate, and space in high school. I was just hands-on guy. I was the technician out there. I wanted to build stuff with my hands. So I took that. I took the vocational house building and got a scholarship for a 2-year community college for project management. And I started just taking electives, and I was like, college just doesn't feel like a good fit for me. And as I was working at that nursery, a guy that had worked there previously, he graduated from Iowa State. And I was like, well, what are you getting a degree in? And he was like, landscape horticulture. And I had no clue that was even an option. Like, it just blew my mind. I was like, you mean I can get a degree in the industry I love? Like, I just absolutely I loved memorizing plants. I'd be out watering them. And he's like, yeah, I just took a woody landscape class, and he'd rattle off all the Latin names. And I was like, wow, that's cool. How did you learn that? He's like, well, you take a class. And I just took it and graduated. And I was like, man, that's cool. So, I was always more of an industrial arts student. I took every class, aced those classes, kind of struggled through math and chemistry and all that. But I said, well, I'll take the ACT, see if I can get into Iowa State. If I can, great. If not, then I'll do something else. But I took the ACT, got a 19, which was the lowest score to get into Iowa State. But I got in. I applied, never went to the school. The first day I show up was orientation, and the program was amazing. Like, I learned about plant biology, and I had to force my way through chemistry. I struggled through. I took that through community college and made it, but I just felt like my brother that works for me didn't graduate from college, and my older brother did, and I just felt like it was something I needed to do for myself, just to say, I am capable of a college degree, because I never really had that. I guess trying to think of the word, but I just felt like I wasn't the smartest kid on the block, and I wanted to prove that to people that I could at least get the college degree. And so, going through Iowa State, it was tough. It wasn't an easy cakewalk. I learned a lot. I took a bunch of construction management classes, and I also, as I was going through, the teacher would say, "Hey, Josh, you've got experience building walls. We're going to do a class on how to build a wall. Can you build a wall for us and walk us through it?" So I would help them do that. We built walls all over Iowa State, and then one of my design classes, we were challenged to do a real life design, and one of the professors that kind of led the department was building a new house. So he had us design a landscape for his house, and mine ended up being the winner. And he pulled me aside and was like, "Hey, Josh, could you actually install this, before you graduate?" And I'm like, "Well, I've got finals coming." He was like, "If I can move your finals around or maybe get you out of some of them, would you be able to do it?" And I was like, "Well, sure." So we actually, my senior year, I put in a big retaining wall, walkway, and the pondless water feature for one of the chairs of the horticulture department. So that was a pretty neat thing. But I struggled a little bit. I struggled with chemistry and all that, and my math classes were tough. But I just felt like achieving that was kind of like justification that I could go on and make a go of this. And I just wanted that knowledge to like meet with clients and discuss their plants and understand how they work more, like the internal workings of a plant, the biology. And I think it was money well spent. Like looking back, I probably spent 32 grand on my education, but I've easily earned that back. I know not everybody goes that route. I was tempted to go a 2-year degree, but I said if I can't pass organic chemistry, then I'm out. And I got a B plus in that thing and passed. And I was so happy. It was a D plus, but I was like, this is my ticket to go on. That's the hardest class I'll take. I took a 5-credit Woody landscape class, and I got a 298 out of 300 on the final, which was just, 3 tables 100 feet long with sticks and twigs and leaves, and you had to identify the common Latin name and state, the features of the plant on this test. And I aced that thing. I missed two plants was it, and I just remember the pride I had walking out of there. There's only 2 of us that got A's on that test, but it was a 5-credit class, which was weighted pretty heavy, and it was just that class was kind of what I wanted to ace. So it was pretty neat. But I met a lot of friends. I learned how to be on time to class, how to get things done on a deadline. I probably learned how to communicate a little bit better than I did when I was in high school, and it just got me out of my comfort zone to go there. Like I never really thought I would be college material. It was just the mindset I had, but graduating has just given me a little bit of confidence, and I think that comes through when I meet with clients today. And I'm confident about talking and identifying plants and designing. And we took a lot of design classes, so I kind of learned the basics of design and how to put a landscape together to be appealing and functional. So I definitely don't regret any of that. I'm glad I did it. I think it was money well spent in hindsight, looking back. But I would definitely, anybody getting into it, I would look at a 2-year program or a 4-year. It's great either way. But I feel like it sets me apart a little bit from my competition, because a lot of the guys locally, they don't know their plants. They don't know, basic plant biology. But a client comes out and says, "Hey, why is my plant looking like this?" I can go into more detail and describe, maybe diseases or other, environmental conditions that might be affecting their plants. And I think it just adds value to our services. So.
Absolutely. Yeah. From what I heard from you with that is that I would say the biggest thing is that confidence in terms of being able to talk with your customers about plants and about, you know, some things that really set you apart from your competition in your area. I can see that being a really huge value add for yourself in your business. And then you mentioned that you work with your brother in your business, and I want to ask you about that dynamic. How can you talk a little bit about that dynamic in terms of working with a family member in your business, and in what role each of you play in the business?
For sure. Since I moved to, I mean, my brother was with me from the very beginning when I was doing projects in Davenport, trying to work through college, and he would help me when he could, when he wasn't working. He would come out on the weekends and help. And then when I moved to Charlotte, I worked for myself for a year, and I had an employee that I met when I was there, and he was a good guy. And I ended up going to this new supplier, and I was just getting going, and I walked in, and the guy's like, "Hey, could you do a paver driveway?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, I mean, I can, if I can do a patio, I can do a driveway. I mean, it's just a lot more pavers, but I could do it." And he's like, "Okay, I'll give you the number for this lady." And it was this orthodontist building on 28 acres up north of Charlotte. And she calls me like the next hour. I'm up there meeting her that evening to install this new driveway. And it was like a $60,000 project for us. And I had no clue what I was getting into. You know, we're looking at 110-ton of rock and 32 pallets of pavers. And she's like, "This looks great, Josh. When can you start?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, like, how did that all just happen?" But I get up, I leave her job. I call my brother, and he was going through a rocky time with his ex-girlfriend who he had a child with her, but it's a long story. But I was like, "I need your help down here. I just sold this mammoth job. I've got one guy, I need you." And he's like, "Well, now's the time for me to come. I'll move down there." So he moved down with me to Charlotte, and we did that job in 2015 or 2000. I'm way ahead. It was 2006. I moved down there in '05. So 2006, he moved down there, and we just started. After that job, we kind of started getting a reputation for hardscapes, and the big supplier there started to recognize us, and they started referring us to more work. And so we just worked together for until the Great Recession here in 2007 and 8. And that year was a really rough year for us. I ended up paying him when I wasn't. We had like no work. The work just dried up, and that was a rough year for us. Probably the hardest year I've ever gone through. And I actually paid him for 3 or 4 months when I couldn't pay myself, just so I could, keep him going, because I was married at the time, and we were able to get by, but he was really struggling. So I just kept paying him until I had no money in the bank. And then one day I had to sit down and have that tough discussion and say, "Hey, brother, I'm trying to keep you going, but I'm broke now. I have no money. I have no money in my account, and you're going to have to find a job somewhere else." And I was just in tears and upset about it. And he was like, "Man, that's cool. I understand. Like, I knew this was coming. Like, the economy's tanked, and we had no work at that time." So he actually went and worked for Budweiser, delivering beer, driving a semi and everything. And I moved up to Raleigh, where my wife got her master's degree at UNC Chapel Hill. And I worked for a huge $20 million company, and learned how to do irrigation and all kinds of, big high-end projects. And in that time, we ended up moving to Kansas City, where she did her internship. And then just the way things transpired, he moved back to Iowa after a while. And then I decided, I worked for a company in Kansas City, a big company, and they said I had outgrown that company, and which was kind of weird, but I was like, well, that's fine. I've been wanting to start my own company again. So I just had that urge to start again and start fresh and rebuild on the mistakes I had made. And Jeremy was going through a time at Budweiser where he wasn't feeling appreciated and underpaid. And I was like, "Hey, man, I'm started back up here in Kansas City. I'm rebuilding. I purchased LMN. We use that religiously to do all of our estimating and now scheduling and everything." I was like, "I think I've got this figured out where we can make money. You come work for me. I think I started him at like $16 an hour. It wasn't much, but it was just enough to get him here. We found him a cheap apartment, and he moved down back here. And I started this company in 2014, so that was 2015 when he moved here, and it's been 5 years. I've got him. He's hourly, but I pay him well. He's like, we're like yin and yang. We can be on a job not even talking and know what each other's thinking. And we're both very skilled at, all the technical work, and I'm a little more design oriented. So I do all the design work and sales, and I'm 100% owner of the company. I always joke with him about, having the easy road where he can go home and relax while I'm out, doing estimates sometimes late at night, but I try to make as much time for my family as I can. But I feel like it works because he feels like he's helping me grow this company and follow my dreams, and I'm helping him support his daughter. His daughter recently moved here from Iowa to finish off her high school years. So, I feel like I'm providing a decent living for him. He's helping me. So we just kind of complement each other that way. And we're similar, but we're different enough to where he respects me as his boss, even though I'm 2.5 years younger. He'll come to me and say, "Hey, what do you think we should do here?" Or "What do you want me to do there?" But also trustworthy enough to where he can take a truck and trailer and do a complete job himself now. And I don't have to follow up or see if it's done right. Like, it's going to be amazing and possibly better than what I would even do. Like, his attention to detail is second to none. Like, his cuts on all the pavers and, getting things level and square. It's always amazing to me when I come back and if I'm on vacation and see a job he's done, I'm like, wow, that looks good, man. Like, it makes me proud. But, there's always the dynamic where we have our mother involved in things, and sometimes, the company can spill over into that relationship. So it makes it a little weird. We try to just, communicate as much as we can. We probably could do a much better job at that, but I think just the respect we have for each other, it's sometimes unspoken, but we know it's there, and we're brothers, so we have that love for each other, which it makes it interesting when we bring employees in, because we have that kind of unspoken bond where these other guys coming in don't have that. They're kind of on the outside looking in, and we have to try to work through that to train them. It's hard because, we expect everything to be done the way we've done it for years, and then trying to bring them in, and they don't have that, unspoken communication that we have. So we make it a point to, kind of talk with the guys and say, "Hey, he's my brother. We have this relationship that we built over the years, and this is kind of how we work, but you're being brought into this. So I want you to know, just be open with them and say, we function at a different level, but we want you guys to get there too, and just have patience with them, because my brother tends to get frustrated with the new guys, because, we tend to hire college kids that like to work hard in the summer, and then they go to college. So we have a little bit of turnover that we've been trying to work on, but I think it's just the mutual respect we have for each other that lets us keep going. And he's 41 and I'm 38, so we're both getting older. I see the need to, hire more employees and get some more actual, skilled workers in the field, because eventually, you can only do hardscaping for so long until your back and knees just start to come at you every morning. So we're trying to appreciate that that's happening to us, and we're seeing some need for change a little bit, but I think that, he's got potential to be, a really good supervisor and to teach other guys the skills he has. But we're just that's where we're at right now. We're just working through that dynamic of, realizing we're getting older, and we need to pass the baton on to some younger guys to keep our company going. And I think we're both really proud of where we've come and what we've done together. And people always think we're twins or whatnot, but uh, they always think I'm the older one because I lead the company and I'm his boss. But we just have a mutual respect that and a trust that it's hard to beat. When you have that. So you meet these new guys and you're trying to compare them and put them at the level that we're at, and it's just it makes it a little difficult. But we're definitely aware of that and working through it right now.
So you talked about going through the recession there, and then coming up to Kansas and starting Sutton Outdoor. You talked about when you contacted your brother and you said, you know what, this company's going to work. You're like, I invested into LMN, and you had this mindset that this company is really going to work. I've got this. What was it about that made you be able to say, like, what was it about this company that you'd learned from the previous company, and that you were convinced and confident that this one was going to work?
Yeah, once in Charlotte, I was just using QuickBooks and randomly, looking at industry averages and, oh, I need to charge $55 an hour for this and whatnot. And we did hundreds of projects and we just weren't making the money. Like we were working ourselves ragged. And so when I worked for a few larger companies and I saw they were using different types of management and estimating software, and I learned how to properly estimate and bill for equipment and all of your materials and labor and overhead. And I never even considered that when I first started my company. And so once I discovered LMN, it put everything into perspective. It gave me a clear budget where I set it up at the beginning of the year. It gave me, all my overhead, what I needed to make, and gave me kind of a goal to hit. So it just brought all that into focus and took all the gray confusion out of it. I was just focused on like, this is what we can do. This is the capacity we can have with two guys. And we're about 600,000 in revenue right now. And it's really me and him, and we have 2 to 3 other guys that help us throughout the year. They kind of rotate in as they go in and out of college. But just seeing those numbers gave me hope in that we could, I created an LLC at first, went to an S Corp. So, after being in Charlotte and I think I paid my first year of marriage, I paid myself $12,000 out of my business. And that was hard to swallow. I think I paid my brother 2 or 3 times that. And I was like, man, I'm doing all this work and getting literally nothing. Like, what's wrong? And so when I saw LMN, I was like, well, this is what's wrong. I'm not accounting for all this overhead and my equipment and my insurance and everything. I wasn't billing it in. I had no clue. So that just opened up my eyes. And now we're an S Corp. I'm on my payroll as an employee. So I give myself a monthly or a weekly salary, and my brother's paid hourly every week. We pay all the guys weekly, and we have never missed a payroll since we've got on LMN. Like, our bills are paid. We have money in the bank. We're saving for winter. And just seeing all that is what gave me the hope to say, hey man, I can support you. I can help you. We can grow this thing. So that was the eye opener.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that, just being able to take that step back, and you said you started working for a business that really opened up your eyes to how to properly estimate, how to, include yourself in the business and pay yourself a salary, and all the equipment that goes into that is, yeah, it's definitely a huge eye opener. And then going through a recession is a whole nother thing as a business owner. And we haven't gone through one in a long time. And I thought we're up for one with this, what would happen at the beginning of this year. And we didn't. And, when's that next one coming? It's always this big question. But what did you learn from that first recession that you've maybe applied to your business moving forward to kind of prepare for the next recession, whenever that might be? Have you done anything to kind of that you've learned from the previous recession that you've applied to your business?
Definitely. It's like they say, you can see you skinny dipping when the tide goes out. Like I was skinny dipping. I was using deposits from jobs to pay my bills and just skimping by and making no profit on these jobs. I was I'd come to the end of the year and pray the tax bill wasn't more than what I had in my bank account. And sometimes it was. And I was like, this can't be the way it is. So, going through that, having to fire my brother through that time. And fortunately, we didn't have a lot of equipment debt, but if I had, things probably would have gone bankrupt. But luckily, I was paying cash for things. I at least had that going for me, and it wasn't, I was renting a lot of equipment, so I didn't have any of that hanging over my head. And that's kind of what, now we're making a profit, but we're planning, we're saving money. We're buying some equipment when we can afford it. We rent others, you see all the guys on Instagram that are buying the new equipment. It's tempting, to go out and do the 0% interest loan, but then you're 60 grand in on a skid steer or whatever. And that hurts when things slow down a little, you get a little scared. So, when we were thinking we might not be able to work with the COVID coming in here in March, April, I was like, man, if we shut down, that could hurt a little bit. But fortunately we had, 3 or 4 months of expenses in the bank. So we weathered the storm, no problem. And luckily we were able to work, but just going first one, that was a gut check. So now I'm quite a bit more frugal with the spending. I want to make sure it's going to be a good return. That if we do, I'll take out some business debt, but I want to be able to pay it back, early. I don't like to keep debt around. I'm a big Dave Ramsey fan. I do understand it's a little hard to apply sometimes to business. You want to grow faster than your finances will allow, but it's really smart just to take a step back, slow down, and pay cash when you can. If not, make sure you can recoup that cost in all your jobs, and then it's a piece of equipment that's going to be worth the investment. Sometimes an excavator can do the work of 4 guys, so you just got to kind of weigh the pros and cons and think about it. Maybe, when you're in the showroom, you get all your numbers and then you go home and you think about it for a night and you don't make those quick purchases because it's going to, save you this much money or whatever, because the bottom can drop out anytime. And even now, if they do a second round of shutdowns or just the way the things of the world are, I just like to, it feels a little more comfortable having money in the bank and not owing a ton of people. I've made it a point this year to pay down some debt. I paid off my truck and some other small equipment we had loans on that were just hanging around, and I got tired of making the payments. So we've paid those down and we're in a lot better position now. But I just, once you go through it once, you don't want to do it again. So you learn and you try to adapt and not make the same mistakes again. And I've just tightened up a little bit more. I'm not just out, buying equipment to be the guy, the shiny new excavator on the back of my truck or whatever. I pride myself in having nice equipment, but it feels a lot better when it's paid for. So.
Absolutely. So when it comes to, bringing that money into the business, it's all about sales and all about talking to those customers. And I want to get into that with you. Your sales process, basically, when somebody contacts you, your business, whether that's email, phone call, whatever it may be, where do you take that conversation from there? How does that conversation go? How do you book that first consultation with them?
Sure. So in the past, I used to answer my phone every call that came in, and I'm out working and I'm stopping and I'm answering my phone, taking the call, trying to find a McDonald's wrapper to write their phone number on. And, I've got receipts with people's address and meetings on it and in my truck. And, I'm like missing meetings. I'm missing phone calls. I'm like, there's got to be a better way. So this year I created my website on Squarespace, and they recently bought Acuity. And so now they're linked together, and that's an online scheduling platform. So I set up Acuity on my website. So now people call if I'm busy working in the field. I have a nice voicemail that says, hey, this is Josh of Sutton Outdoor. I'm working in the field. Please leave your name and number. You can visit our website, and now you can click on the link to schedule an online. You can click and schedule a consultation. So now they just go directly to my website, and I've kind of got some different blocks they click on to say, what's your budget? What are you looking for? Is there any other information you need? We need to know to schedule this meeting. And if not, they'll fill all that out, and we basically have a meeting set up online at their time. So it takes all the back and forth out of our meetings, so we can it just eliminates, like they call and say, hey, I'm available on Wednesday. Well, I can do Tuesday. Well, I'm available at 4 on Friday. And so now they just click on the link, schedule their appointment at their leisure. It links to my calendar on iCal. So all my personal calendar and everything is in there, and it'll block off time so I can put all my meetings after 4 p.m. or whatever. And that's the available times that show up. And then they click on that link and it just automatically schedules with me. But they have to fill out the budget information and all the preliminary questions, which kind of filters out, the tire kickers and stuff for me. So going to that automated system's been huge. Last year, I probably missed out on $500,000 worth of work just because I wasn't always timely getting back, or people would get my voicemail and just say, oh, he's not interested. But I mean, I was definitely interested, but I was also busy working in the field. So doing this, going to Acuity has actually, I've scheduled probably 60 meetings this year through Acuity, and everybody's been like, man, that system was awesome. Like, I can schedule it at my leisure as I want, and I know you're going to be there. It sends them a follow-up email reminding them, hey, you got a meeting today with Josh from Sutton Outdoor at 4 p.m. And they have the opportunity to cancel up to like 24 or 48 hours. But that's just been a huge thing for me, still working in the field, not having a secretary or dedicated person. At first, I was like, well, if they don't hear me talk or answer the phone, they're not going to be interested. But I don't know if it takes that awkwardness out of, people feeling like, oh, I don't want to have this awkward conversation. But I've sold, I'd probably close 50% of our projects, because sometimes we're just higher cost, or I'll generally, if they'll click on and say, I need a concrete patio, and, I'll call and say, hey, we don't do concrete. I'd refer you to this guy. But overall, it guides them through the website. It has, the areas we work in. We don't work in South Kansas City. We only work north of the river. We try to keep our route and we try to stay within 30 minutes of our home base here. So it just weeds out all those people. I try to just be as transparent on the website as possible and use that as a tool to educate our clients, and, it kind of pre-filters out some of the people that are, looking to just, looking for a good cheap price or trying to get multiple estimates. But it's worked really well for me.
I love the idea of systematizing that, because it really takes a lot of load off your plate as somebody working in the field and trying to juggle all that. And do you find a lot of those leads are coming straight from somebody visiting your website? Or do you find that people are coming, say, through your Instagram page, through your Facebook page, through, where are all those leads coming from that you find are booking through that?
We do get a few from Google, but mostly, a lot through Instagram. As I try to share more stories. I think last year we had like 90 followers, and we're up to 3,600. A lot of obviously landscape companies, but I've had lately this year, I've had a lot of people like, yeah, I've been following you on Instagram over the last year, and we saw this project that looked a lot like what we have, and then a lot are just referrals. And I always, our current clients, we give them cards. I've been trying to write handwritten thank yous more. I've got a new fresh stock of those, so I'm trying to get those out to people and just encourage those referrals. And so mostly, or they see my trailers. A lot of guys see our trailers, and ladies, they're like, oh, I see your trucks everywhere. How many guys do you have? I'm like, well, it's just me and my brother. We have 2 trucks, but we're all over the place. We do a lot of work. There's not many days where we're not doing anything, and we're always at the supply yards and everywhere, Home Depot, Lowe's. Just today I got a guy come up and like, hey, I need a patio in the back. I see from your trailer you do patios. I'm like, hand him my card, say, visit our website. You can schedule online with me. And they're like, that's great. And then all of a sudden you get the email from Acuity that you've got a new appointment, and you can see all their details. They've got a $5,000 to $10,000 budget, or a 20 to 30,000. Not everybody's truthful on those, I found, but at least they know we have a minimum charge. Like, they're not going to click on, $50 to $100 or something. Like, it's going to cost you money if you want to work with us. And so that's just, most of them have been referrals, and then not as much from Google, I don't think, but I have a lot of Facebook too. The older crowd likes the Facebook still, so link Instagram and Facebook, they post together, so we get quite a few people, or we get a referral. It's like, hey, check him out on Instagram, he's always on there. So that's been a huge tool for our business as well.
And then when it comes to consultations, that first consultation, do you charge for that, or is that free?
No, I generally don't charge for the initial conversation or the consultation. I just love meeting with people and educating them about their project. Most people have no clue what they're getting into. So I try to weed some of the people out that look a little more suspicious. You can generally tell by the way they fill out the forms online and stuff. And then I like to call and see if they're, getting multiple other contractors or not. But, I love to just build the relationships and build the trust from the beginning. So I just feel like charging for that just kind of cheapens that and kind of raises their eyebrows at first, like, wow, he's charging me $80 just to come meet with me. And I just look at it from my perspective. Like, I've never paid money to have a contractor just come give me a price. If I'm going to do design work and stuff, then we definitely charge for that once we get beyond that initial consultation. But I've had multiple jobs sold just from people that maybe didn't buy from me, but their neighbor or their friend at work, and they're like, yeah, I just met with Josh from Sutton Outdoor. He quoted me on a patio. It was too high for what we wanted, but he was really nice and knowledgeable. So I've sold a lot of work that way. I know a few guys in our region have been charging, and they have some luck and they get a lot of pushback, but I just right now we don't charge, but I can see the value both, but I just like to not have that barrier. It's one less thing I have to try to hurdle to sell the job. I try to be as easy as possible to work with and transparent, and just build that trust from the beginning, and not look like I'm out just to pad my pockets. So that's where I'm at.
And then that initial meeting, what are you taking with you, and what are you discussing with that customer to try to get an idea of what's going to go into the quote and or design if you're doing a design?
Yeah, so we always take we take our Unilock catalogs, and Belgard's big around here. They made us Belgard authorized contractor. Our second year in business, we were just doing a lot of patios, and they really got behind us. And I know a lot of people dog on Belgard, but our local rep has been amazing, and they're very they make it here in Bonner Springs, so it's readily available. Unilock just came in probably 2 years ago, so we've been doing more of their projects. But I'll take a Unilock and a Belgard catalog. We were actually featured in one of the Belgard catalogs in 2019, and then they used the photos again in the 2020 catalog. So it's cool to say, hey, this was actually our project in here. And it's just a conversation starter. And so I always take Belgard and Unilock, or the two. Teco's kind of hard to get around here, just because they haven't created, kind of a shipping yard to distribute in Kansas City yet. But so Belgard, Unilock are the two big ones. So I'll take those and just kind of guide them through. Typically we sell a lot of the flagstone, Beacon Hill, and the rustic slab from Belgard, just because it lays quick and looks nice. And but I'll kind of walk them through, kind of get a feel for what they're looking for, and then I always take my zip level along, which we use religiously, and that's kind of cool. I've got a drone now, which I've started taking some more drone shots, which kind of creates kind of a neat experience for the customers, but get some pictures of their house they're not used to seeing other than on Google. So it just kind of wows them a little. I like that. But just walking through, how are you going to use the space? Do you have kids? Do you have dogs? Or do you have irrigation? Are we going to have to work around any utilities and all that? I just kind of get a feel for the project, kind of look around their house, kind of see the style they have already existing, or what they're lacking. I try to coach them through, how I've done a nice space in my house, so I can kind of relate to them and say, well, I have a built-in fire pit, but sometimes it's nice to have a portable one if you're going to have large parties and you want to be able to move that fire pit around. Or are you more of a s'mores kind of person, or do you want to sit and look at a fire with a fireplace and have that wow factor? So just kind of gathering all that information, and then if they want to proceed with the design, we do a lot of in-house designs. I use UVision right now. It was a low-cost program that was easy for me to learn. I'm kind of veering towards, trying a new program that might be a little more, even more realistic. Some people really are getting tech savvy, so they want to be wowed, but at the same time, UVision is just so easy to use and convey your concept without being overboard. And it's quick for me to use. And anything like a large grand master plan, I usually will hire we have a local girl, Liz Vestica. She owns Lisby Designs, and she does amazing landscape architecture work. She uses Dynascapes, and will also do awesome 3D UVision plans. If I get backlogged, I'm probably one of the few companies that still does a lot of my own designs. I just love taking it from design to build on my own. But when I get backlogged, I'll definitely hire her, and she always comes through for us. She meets with the clients and makes it real easy she'll put our logos on the plans, and we don't have to, stress about getting these designs done, because that's her job. And she leaves a little room so we can add a little margin to the job to account for our costs with the clients. But it's a nice service to have. There's lots of companies that offer that, but if you're not into the design side, there's plenty of freelance people that will be happy to sub that for you. So that's kind of what we walk them through that process, and then let them know, usually I'll charge $100 per hour for design work. Just say, typically it's 4 to 5 hours, probably looking at 500 to 800 if you want a master plan. And if they're willing to go with that, generally they'll go with the whole project, and we don't credit that back or anything, because that's just work we've done. So I've never felt the need to credit that, and most people appreciate that, and they've worked with architects or whatever in the past and understand that that's how it works. So
when it comes to that design gets presented to the customer wants to go ahead with it, what are the payment plans like that you sign up that customer for?
anything under 30,000, we will do 50% down and 50% on completion. If we start to run over that, we'll usually do like a 25% down and then 25% in different milestones, so we're not completely extended out there. But I still do a lot. I have a bookkeeper I hire that does all of our bookkeeping, but entering all the payments and everything usually falls on me in QuickBooks, and I don't really like to keep up with that many. I'm not a numbers guy, like I said in the beginning, but as few payments as I have to keep up with, the better. But generally, I've had pretty good. I've only had one guy that stiffed us on a $5,000 job, and that burned a little bit because I didn't have a contract in place. But we have our contracts written by a lawyer. It's pretty tight, and I've had good luck with that so far. I've heard a lot of other guys talk about more of the draw system, which I can definitely see the value. And I definitely, if we go much over 30 grand, I don't want to risk that, which is maybe silly, but so far it's been easier for us to manage. I try to keep things as simple as I can, but I think it'll probably just take me getting bit one time, but
Right.
I'm trying to learn as we go and keep things simple. But I just trying to fathom keeping up with 4 or 5 or 10 payments from one customer is kind of mind-boggling for me personally, because I still work in the field a lot. So I just try to keep the office work streamlined as much as possible. So
Right.
that's why I keep it simple. And then we do, once the contract's signed, I send it all through DocuSign now. So it's all electronic. I'll fill out a start date and an end date and, the contracted amount, just to, so they know we're all on the same page. It's not going to be like, well, we're going to start sometime in October and be done sometime in November. I've had a lot of people want to know, like, what's your anticipated start and finish date? And the contract kind of spells out that it's kind of for their benefit, but they could change. So it's worded as such, so we're not held liable, if it's not done on November 27th. That's just an estimated date, but
Right.
so they sign everything through DocuSign, and then we both have copies of the contract, and it's stored electronically. It saves me a trip meeting with the client, and a lot of people have really enjoyed that as well. They're just used to doing more things online, so I'm just going with it and saving the fuel to go out there again. And once we get that contract signed, I'll meet with them, a day or two before we start the project and make sure everything, where we're going to store material, if the irrigation shut off, that all the locates were marked when we called them in for utilities and whatnot. But that's kind of how we go. And then once we get going, I try to just over communicate with the client on what we're going to do each day, what to anticipate. I let them know up front that it's going to look like a bomb went off in their yard, and then it's going to come back together every day and, be something they're going to want to show their friends. So it's always fun once we get to the end and they kind of see the whole process go. But I just try to, be upfront with people and not, sugarcoat anything, because it looks like the project we just started this week looked like a bomb went off. There's material and rock and stone everywhere, jackhammers going, the grass is getting tore up a little, and you're just reassuring them that it's going to come together, and, try to educate them as we go on the process so they don't start wondering, well, man, does this guy even know what he's doing? Or, like, there's a reason we're doing everything, and there's a reason each piece of equipment's there. And, well, like, the guy today was like, well, you took the big limestone chunks out of my backyard. Are you going to bring those back? I'm like, yeah, we had to get them out of there so we had room to work and, manage the site so that, it wasn't a cluster, and we could bring the new material in, and we're going to bring those big stones back when it's time for them. But right now they need to be gone off the site. So just kind of walking them through that process, I think, is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned in there that you did have a customer that you did miss out on that payment from them. So that kind of leads into my next question, and maybe that is the time that you had a horror story with a customer. But do you have a horror story that you'd want to share? Is that the one that you want to get into in this? Or?
That's one. I've had many, but yeah, that would be fine. This was just a well-known doctor in Kansas City, and we had planted some trees for him a year before in the fall, and he had a property manager. And these trees we were kind of subcontracted by our local nursery to plant them, and they were crediting us our account for planting them, and they were just selling their trees. But he paid the nursery, so I never had any deals with payment from him. But I saw his house, it was very nice, and then his property manager's like, he's got a lake house nearby, and he needs to have his irrigation winterized, which we do irrigation and everything. So I was like, well, yeah, just let me know when you need it winterized. And he never called. So January comes, and we're in 20-30 degree weather, and the doctor calls and says, hey, my property manager said you were supposed to winterize our system, but you never did. Now it's all ruined and frozen and broke. And I was like, well, he never called. And he's like, oh, shoot, well, can you come take a look? I'm out of town, see what's going on. So I run down there quick. It's January, and I check it out. And we actually had a week where it was, above freezing. So I was able to go down there, and I was like, well, your pump's all froze and broke. I was like, you're going to need a new pump to start with. And he was like, well, what will that cost? And I was like, well, probably $3,500 for the pump and another $2,000 for labor, roughly. And he's like, okay, just go ahead and do it and get it running and let me know what I owe you. And I'm like, I'm looking at his house and all the the boats and stuff in the water and thinking, wow, this is awesome. I'm going to make some money in January here. So we run out, buy the pump for $3,500, build the whole new pump house and get it all running. And I send him videos and he's like, this is great. Send me an invoice. And so I did that. I sent him the invoice and went about a month, heard nothing. I call him like, hey, we haven't got your payment. Yeah, I'm getting a new credit card. I'll get you paid within 2 weeks. I'm like, oh, okay. So I get my bill for the pump from our supplier and I pay $3,500 for his pump. And then another month goes by and still nothing. So we end up turning him in. I have a local client that's a lawyer, so I told him about it and he said, I'll send him a letter. And he got a letter and then he ended up getting a letter back saying he was in bankruptcy and we were low man on the totem pole, weren't going to get paid because he owed 10 or 12 other contractors money, which I looked on CaseNet online and he definitely had probably 10 or 12 other lawsuits against him that I could have seen, but I didn't have a contract at all. It was all verbal and through text messages, and I was wanting to go back and take that pump back because I needed the $3,500, to get through winter. But he ended up, they said if I went back and took the pump, it would be theft because it was installed on his property. And so we tried to work out a payment plan and just never ended up getting payment. And we lost out on that whole $5,000 project because I didn't have a contract signed. So now I make sure everybody at least signs or scribbles their name on a contract or signs a DocuSign contract before we do anything.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of one of the times. I only had one other time in Charlotte during the recession where a builder went bankrupt and we lost out on a good chunk of change too, just because he got in over his head and we didn't have any contracts and he just had no money. So we got shorted on that one too. But
yeah, it's good to, hear these stories, and obviously, you've learned from them by creating those contracts that you have now, but it's just great to get those out there to, inform others how important these things are in your business to kind of set in stone. But moving on to the installation aspect of things, do you have any major things that you want to talk about in terms of installation that you live by, or any pieces of equipment, tools that you've invested in or are going to invest in shortly that you want to talk about?
sure, installation wise, we love using drive grid, the triaxial drive grid under every project. We put it under every patio and we use the geogrid in the walls, but the drive grid we have a lot of clay soils here. So it's just really helped reinforce that sub base. And it's just amazing when you try to drive across the, freshly excavated base, with a mini skid steer, and you'll sink those tracks in deep. And then once you lay that layer of drive grid with, maybe 2 or 3 inches of open graded stone, you don't sink at all. And it's just amazing to see that. And then that sells work because I go into detail on the install of that with clients. We spend a little bit extra. It's like $350 for 1,100 square feet roll or something. Like it's not that much. And we put it, we can usually do 2 or 3 patios with one roll of drive grid. And it's just cheap insurance to ensure that our patio is gonna, not settle. It's not gonna move hardly at all, like if at all. But it's just an amazing product that, it doesn't seem like it would do that much, but it really does. And then we always install perma edge now. That's our go-to for the paver edging. We love that. The guys there are great. They always have good feedback anytime we have a question or anything. We have a roller compactor from Weber. We love that thing. That's in a huge piece of equipment that, looks like it's kind of, it's like $4,000 for this roller that you can only use on the surface of a patio, but it saves so much time from, you're not cracking pavers. Like we used to use a polyurethane pad on our other compactor and trying to mount that thing on there. And then you get into a corner and trying to turn that thing, and it just gets to be a nightmare where this roller compactor just really speeds up every every install we do, you're probably saving an hour or two at the end of the project, and you're not cracking pavers. It gets the joint sand fully into the whole paver. You're not dropping it in a half inch or whatever. So we use poly sweep sand, which has been great. It like their advertisement says, it's just damn good sand. You don't have to wonder if it's going to set up or not. You don't have to be accused of user error sweeping sand into the joints, and it's just another great product that we use religiously as well. We've done a few gator base projects, which I've been really impressed with. The synthetic gator base, it's worked well in areas where we can't get a skid steer, a mini excavator, and a dig, and you have to do a little bit thinner base. It makes it amazing install and really speeds us up as well. So that's always in our arsenal to use. We have our mini skid steers. I purchased a Kubota SBL 65 skid steer just because we got tired of double and triple handling pavers and straining our backs that much more. So that was a pricey purchase, but it pays for itself. And if we've purchased as much pave tool equipment as we can get, the screeders, and we have an airlifter, a backpack airlifter, which works pretty good. You still kind of have to stack the pavers up and move them over there, but it definitely saves on bending your back. All those little things, add up over time, especially as you get older and your body gets older and things start to hurt a little more every morning. So it's all that kind of stuff is just anything I can do or equipment that I can afford to buy, I'm going to buy it for sure. I'm not going to think twice about it. It's always nice to try new things. I'm sad they're not having the GIE and H&A this year, because that's always the time we go and see all the new stuff and talk with other guys and try to invest in some more equipment. But that's just anything you can do to increase efficiency and reduce the wear and tear on your body is a good thing. So
as we close down this interview, Josh, I've got two more questions for you. One being, do you have any mentors in the industry, whether that's online on Instagram or people that you've learned from over the years that you'd want to give a shout out?
For sure. I'm big on Instagram. I follow all the usual suspects, and Mulder and J Squared and Natural Designs Chad up there in Canada. We always communicate back and forth. We've got a kind of an alliance here in Kansas City. We've got 3 or 4 contractors. We all Dynamic Earth, Caleb, and Atlas Landscape, and Complete Hardscapes. Jake, he's my buddy, and we all kind of share equipment and help each other out when we're in a bind. So but Instagram has been a huge tool. I've got Pride Hardscapes up in Oregon. I talk with him all the time, and he's been encouraging me to try out the Sony excavator and save some money and go that route. And just anytime I have a question, or Andy Mulder, I'm like, hey, what color caulk do you use for the ledgestone caps on Unilock? And he sends me a message. I know exactly what to get and what's going to work good. So it's just cool how all of us can be so connected and learn from each other and help each other out, even though we're all across the, internationally connected. It's just really cool. So I've got so many people I follow and talk to every day. Literally, my wife gets mad at me. She's, get off that Instagram. I'm like, no, I'm learning about this new tool, or I've got to figure out what kind of caulk I need to buy tomorrow. So it's just really neat. I love it. And and then I'm also part of a peer group, the Green Executive. Adam Linneman, he runs a company in St. Louis, and every month we meet and talk with 5 or 6 other contractors that are in non-competing markets, and we just talk business and personal issues, whatever we're struggling with. We kind of help each other through, so we're not feeling alone in this industry, and we can kind of put all of our minds together. So that's a thing I'm a part of. It's like $99 a month, but I get every penny of it out of it. Learning one new thing each month, you'll make make that money in no time. So it's just to have that support as well. So
Yeah, and especially just reaching out to people and getting those answers and seeing what's on the market in terms of tools and equipment and how guys are using it. I can see such a huge benefit of being on Instagram and getting that inspiration, and then your peer group and everything. Incredible. And then my final question for you, Josh, is obviously you've been through a lot with all your businesses and everywhere you've been, and you've learned a lot, but I want to ask you that one thing you wish you'd known from the very beginning, from when you first started your business, that you know now. What is that one thing you wish you'd known?
well, looking at my board on the wall, I've got it written down. It says, "Never get too busy making a living that you forget to make a life." I was pouring myself so much into my business and shortchanging my wife and my kids and my family and my health. You know, I was getting pretty chubby, just eating fast food and trying to deal with the stress. And I think it's important to just keep perspective on your business, to not let it control you, to let it work for you, to create an income, but also, you know, make sure that you're giving your wife and your kids that time that they deserve and that they require, and that you're not going to get to the end of your life and you'll wish you had spent more time with them. And there's always going to be more work. It's never ending. You have to take those vacations and take care of your body and your health, and keep those people that love you and will be there no matter what. Hold them close and hold them tight and love them each day. That's more important than any of this stuff. Is the number one thing. I kind of lost sight of that, and you know, after a couple of years of marriage, I kind of had to, you know, a gut check and just say, hey, this business it could come and go. Hopefully not, but you know, my wife and kids are gonna be here no matter what, and I've got to use this as a tool to support them and to give us the lives that we want to live. So just don't forget that what's important in life.
And that's a great way to end the interview there. Josh, tell our audience where they can find you online, anywhere that you want them to go, and any closing comments.
Yeah, we're on Instagram is Sutton Outdoor LLC. Facebook is the same. And then our website is suttonoutdoor.com. And, you know, I just encourage anybody to reach out. I'm always available. I'm willing to talk to anybody about anything at any time. So just let me know if you've got any questions or just want to, you know, chat about anything. I'm always available. So just appreciate the time I've had here to open up and, you know, hopefully give some encouragement and advice to everyone out there. It's a great industry to be a part of.